everyone, and welcome to another edition of Cubs on Tap. I'm your host, Cody. You can follow me on Twitter at Cody on Tap, and I'm joined tonight by my good friend, Joe Maris. You can follow him on Twitter at Joe on Tap. Joe, what's going on, brother?
Not much, just soaking it all in, man.
Yeah, man, I feel you.
Don't know what I'm soaking in, but I'm soaking it in.
Well, before we really dive into tonight's show, if you follow us on Twitter, we're live right now. We're also live on YouTube and Facebook. Twitter and our platform we're streaming on do not get along apparently still, and so you still can't leave a comment on Twitter or in the comments on Twitter. So head to On Tap Sportsnet's YouTube and Facebook if you want to drop a comment. Would be very appreciative if people interacted, because tonight's show is I guess it's a little bit of a special one. 5-year anniversary of the World Series. A good one to follow up with after having a great guest like DJ Hertz a couple weeks ago. So but I don't want to jump right into it right away, but Joe, feel free if you want to. I feel like it's just going to be kind of free flowing, whatever. But
right.
I do want to mention the World Series going on right now, and I just want to say that this is the one time that I kind of want the Astros to win, because I don't want the Braves to have November 2nd as well. You know what
I mean? I see what you're saying. I thought you were going a different angle just so you could. Yeah, I thought you were going more to the Game 7 route.
No. I mean, if it was any other day, I'd be all about let's go Braves. But tonight, I kind of want the Astros to extend this, because I just November 2nd should always be the Cubs day. It should be like Christmas for Cubs fans only. That's it.
See, I don't know. I've never put much thought into that. I don't know if that would bother me. On the surface, I don't think so, because for the most part, when you're on Facebook and Twitter, you're around your Chicago fans, so you're not going to be seeing, well, the Braves won on November 2nd, because nobody gives a shit about the Braves breaking. I don't even know if they're breaking a streak. They won in the 90s, so it wouldn't be as big of a deal. But obviously, with this one, it's 5 years. That's the first benchmark. I can't believe it's been 5 years.
Yeah, man. I will say this much. When I woke up today and I realized it was November 2nd, it didn't feel like how I thought about it, after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, for me personally. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that quite literally, because of the pandemic, when there were no sports on, I mean, people were talking about the Cubs winning the World Series in 2016 on November 2nd, like every single day during the pandemic. It honestly got to a point where I got tired of talking about it, because it was all people were talking about on Cubs Twitter. We're talking about like what they did and like all this different stuff. I feel like you understand in a sense what I mean by that. It just got kind of old, and I never thought it would get old. Like it was kind of, whatever. So honestly, today I've been just looking back more so on like where my life was 5 years ago compared to today, more so than, the Cubs won 5 years ago and it was one of the greatest days of my life and blah, blah, blah. Because honestly, just over the last 20 months since this pandemic started, when there were no sports, it was just kind of like every day I felt like you saw the highlight of the Cubs winning the World Series just appear on my Twitter timeline, especially during the months of March through June of last year.
Yep.
And and even as sports started to come back, it was I still feel like it's just on my timeline all the time. But nonetheless, I'm not trying to not make it not special, but this is just me personally. Like maybe I just maybe we get to 10 years and I think completely differently. But again, not putting it down, not saying it's not that big of a deal anymore or anything. It's more of just like, I just looking back on how my life has changed over the last 5 years more so than anything today.
Yeah, I mean, I still get chills every time I see it. It's the most cliche thing anybody's ever said. But like, you see that last ground ball and I could just feel it down my neck, and you're just like, oh my gosh. And I know whenever I'm feeling down, I just flip on a 2016 playoff highlights. Not just World Series, but for anyone out there looking for a great Game 7 highlight video on YouTube, I think it's like Game 7 in 30 minutes. Just perfect. It's like basically every single pitch. They just cut everything out in the middle. Just a great watch. It's just a great watch.
Yeah, I think there's also a video out there, and my girlfriend's dad has told me about this, but I don't know where you can go find it, but there's video of a Game 7 out there with no broadcast, and it's just the sounds of the stadium that night, and that's it. You can just watch it without, like I said, like a broadcast or radio. You just get the sounds of the actual game, and that's it. And I've never watched it, but I would love to. Because that would probably just make it a little bit more special.
Right. I think that's one of those things you go to the big moments. You're not watching the entire, 1 through 9 inning, at least not me, but I'm going to, I'm watching the home run. I'm watching the Fowler home run. The Baez homer. It's just, I still can't believe, I think this kind of had gone away in my memory, but the little sack fly that Russell hit that just kind of barely snuck into the outfield, and Rajai Davis in center field was not prepared to make a throw, and Chris Bryant tagged up, and you're just like, that's a great. It's just a great play.
Right. Yeah. That's one of the more underrated plays that no one really talks about. Everyone always talks about Dexter Fowler hitting the leadoff homer, or Ben Zobrist getting that RBI in the 10th inning to give the Cubs the lead. Obviously the Rajai Davis, Almora tagging up. Rajai Davis 8th inning. No matter even though the Cubs won, people still talk about it in terms of just where they were mentally after that. John Lester coming in for Kyle Hendricks. Everyone still talks about how Joe Madden fucked that up.
I agree with a lot of people. I think he got taken out too early, but hey,
I'm with you.
We won.
I was in 16. I stand Joe Madden no matter what. I was always I agreed with everything he did, no matter what. I always did, and until Game 7. Well, and I even found a way to justify Joe Madden bringing in Aroldis Chapman in Game 6 when the Cubs had a giant lead against the Indians, and obviously it came back to haunt them in that 8th inning, but then also somehow, some way, Aroldis Chapman got through that 9th inning.
Yeah,
that's the inning that I always bring up to people when people are because it's just Cubs haters. Fuck them, first off, but it's the people who think the rain delay should have never happened, and that's the reason the Cubs won is because the MLB rigged it or some bullshit like that. And it's no, you go back to that 9th inning after the Cubs went down. I believe the Cubs went down in order in the top of the 9th.
No, they didn't.
Did they get a couple guys on? I can't remember.
They had a man on third base with less than 2 outs, and Baez with the full count tried to bunt.
Yes. That's what happened. Okay. Either way, that was a big moment, right? And it didn't go on the Cubs' way. Coming off what had happened in the 8th inning, the entire Indians crowd, the entire stadium, all the momentum was on Cleveland's side. You go into the bottom of the 9th inning, and Joe Madden leaves Aroldis Chapman in, despite how dead his arm is, and he somehow, some way, got 3 outs and didn't give up a run in the bottom of the 9th inning of that game. That is the thing that really blows my mind the most when I think about that game, because I promise you, as optimistic as I was in 2016 throughout the entire season, I really thought the Cubs were going to get walked off in the bottom of the 9th inning and just literally tear my soul to shreds. I really thought it was going to happen. I was not ready for all the trolls that were going to come after me. I was ready for it to be the worst day of my life. I really was, Joe.
So for me, I had just turned 21. My birthday's in October. I had just turned 21. I turned 21, and I want to say it was like Game 3 of the NLCS. It was on my birthday. Yeah, I mean that was just a perfect time to turn 21 in general. But so I'm at a bar. Any ISU or Illinois Wesleyan students out there, Killarney's, and I don't remember how my mood was because, you know, and but I can just picture myself being like, "All right, everybody, we're fine, we're fine." But the part I know this for sure, the part that really got me in that top of the ninth inning. So like we mentioned, Javi tried to bunt with 2 strikes, fouled it, so he strikes out, and Fowler was up next, and he hit looking back, I don't know how hard he hit it, but the way the camera was angled, whatever camera they went to, it looked like it was going right up the middle. And all of a sudden, Lindor comes flying out of nowhere and makes a beautiful play. And you're just like, oh, that was it. You're like, oh, that was it. That was it. And the momentum just, whoa, Indians. Yeah. And for all the I mean, that's something that's not in the highlights. You don't ever think about it. You don't ever talk about it. He goes out there for the ninth inning and he gets it done.
Yeah. Yeah. I will, I know Aroldis Chapman has gone on to, still be a top end closer in baseball since he left the Cubs, but I wouldn't say he's been as good as he was with the Cubs, with the Yankees since then. Mm-mm. And I mean, I think we'll all die on that hill that Joe Madden just was like, I'm ruining this guy's arm no matter what.
He overmanaged. The thing, I mean, on what's his name? What was the Indians coach's name? I can't think of it.
Terry Francona.
Yeah, Terry Francona. Him and Madden both overmanaged the shit out of that series. At some point, managers, they're pulling strings left and right. But, I mean, we're seeing
even Andrew Miller didn't have a great Game 7. No. I don't remember the stat line, but he wasn't very good. Corey Kluber, who started the game for the Indians, he was out of the game very early in that game.
He was on short rest. I think he was like 2 or 3 days rest, but that's what the playoff is,
He was still he had dominated the Cubs in that series. Yeah. He probably was going to win World Series MVP if he had given the Indians 5 innings in that game, and the Indians had gone on to win.
Right, because you think he pitched Game 1, he would have
Game 4,
Game 4,
yep,
and then Game 7.
Yeah. So I think about those kinds of things all the time when I think about Game 7. One thing we haven't even mentioned yet: Miguel Montero got the game-winning hit.
The estranged Miguel Montero.
The estranged, yeah. Because never forget, it was at the World Series parade where he was on ESPN 1000, and he was bitching about how no one was giving him credit for getting the game-winning hit. Technically, Ben Zobrist got the game-winning hit, but Montero, when it comes to statistics, I guess the way that baseball measures it or whatever, Zobrist got the game-winning hit. But if Montero doesn't get the next RBI, the game is extended.
Right. And that's another thing too. Everybody remembers the Rajai Davis home run in the 8th inning. The dude had an RBI single in the 10th inning.
Yeah. When he came up in the 10th inning, what was it? Carl Edwards on the mound?
Yep. Carl Edwards. He got the first 2 outs and then walked. And then it was on the 3-2 count that a guy on first was stealing, and he scored all the way from first. Yeah. I don't think it was a double, but I think the Cubs are just like, all right, yeah, give up the run, because it was Almora. Almora must have been in center field.
Yeah, that's we're bringing up all these moments, man, and I just am now thinking back to what I did when all this happened. I will say this: when Rajai Davis hit the homer, in that 8th inning, I just remember staring at the TV and couldn't blink for minutes upon minutes. It felt like a lifetime. And I remember one of my roommates, one was a Cardinals fan, the other was a diehard Cubs fan like me and you. And the Cubs fan, he quite literally got up, said it was over, and went to bed. And then he came back down after the rain delay. I was so mad at him.
You gotta
I was
die with the
so
ship.
mad at him.
You gotta you gotta stick with the ship.
Yeah, I was so mad at him that night when he did that. I was so mad at him. But yeah, that's just that game. Everything we keep bringing up, man, it's just like that game was just insane. And the Cubs are never gonna have another game like that again. Game 5, the NLDS in 2017, I guess, against the Nationals is a close second place when it comes to just craziness, but it definitely didn't have the height of Game 7 of the World Series with two teams with a giant World Series drought, anything like that. You know what I mean? It was, it was something that we will never see again. I don't think.
And I tweeted this out earlier. 5 years ago today, because of the Cubs, I have the most embarrassing videos I took of like myself and all my friends around me and just me yelling like a little girl. It's like, but it's like those are the ones they're always going to be on my phone. It's just like I can't. Yeah. Those are kept sacred. It was a perfect night, man.
Yeah, I remember after the game, I just went on a fucking. I wasn't a bender. It was just like I was ready to let loose on every Cubs hater I knew. Like I was ready. I was absolutely ready. My Cardinals fan friend who I live with, he like did a live video of me. Like he went live on Facebook in which I proceeded to just like tell 1 billion people to go fuck off, to fuck themselves. Like it was the first of 365 days of just straight trolling. Like I dug into the deep heart of my, as a kid having to deal with all the Bartman shit, having to deal with Cardinals fans who lucked into a World Series in 2006, and I will forever believe that. Lucked into another World Series in 2011, and all these motherfuckers screaming 11 rings, even though literally more than half of them came before black people could even play in the fucking major leagues. That is, I'm pretty sure that's true at least. And I just let loose on like all these people, man. I was unbearable. I probably lost friends from the moment the Cubs won the World Series to the moment that they lost in the NLD or NLCS against the Dodgers in 2017. I was absolutely unbearable to everyone because I just had all this built up aggression from all these people who had slandered my favorite baseball team my entire life. I could only imagine all the old people who was just, happy to see one before they died, man. I could only imagine what those people were thinking and doing and stuff like that. Could only imagine.
Now that you bring that up, I actually wasn't 21 when the Cubs won. I was 20. So I forgot. I must have, because now that you bring that up about the losing to the Dodgers in 17, because it was the night they lost was the night before I was getting on a flight to go to Vegas with my dad for my 21st birthday. So fake IDs, man, they're great.
I was gonna say, you got that fake ID down there in Bloomington Normal. Oh man.
But yeah, I mean, I just remember like going to class the next morning. I think I may able to go to class, and there was you could just see all the other people out there or in the class that you saw the night before, and you're just like, hey, I'm with you. And then skip class Friday to go to the parade. I got separated, so I went with 3 friends, and I got separated from them. And I could not. I was wandering the streets for like 2 hours by myself until I found them. And I just remember like I'm high-fiving people. Woo!
Yeah, everyone was friends in Chicago on that day, on the day of the parade. I unfortunately couldn't go. I had to work. I couldn't get out of work. Actually, I just started a new job at the time. So yeah, I missed out. I watched, like, I mean, I was at work streaming it on my computer though. Like there was no way I wasn't watching it. But man, I would have loved to be there, man. That would have been that. If there's any regret I have from that year is just saying fuck my job and going up there to experience that, because watching it on video was not enough.
My grade severely suffered for that. Like, how long did the playoffs last? Like a month. I guess, yeah, like a month. Like my girl, I remember it might have been on my birthday. I had to turn in a paper, and I had hardly started because every night we saw in our room we had a projector. We had a little common area, we had a projector. We would just sit there with a case of beer and just. And so I'm like, I gotta get this paper done. I have to because the Cubs game starts in 3 hours. Blah blah. Like, I gotta get it done. Yeah. And at some point, I just said, "Fuck it," and I just hit submit, and I got it back. I got an F because it was like half of the requirement length. I didn't do a bibliography. See, my mind was
quite literally did say "fuck it."
My mind was so clouded that I'm just like, I gotta go. Who cares?
Who cares? Nothing matters. The Cubs are in the postseason in the World Series.
Alumni. Yeah. It still worked.
Illinois Wesleyan. Nice. I'm trying to think. Were you able to at least hang out in Wrigleyville during the World Series at all?
No.
I was able to go hang out in the area for Game 4 at Wrigley. I had a buddy, still buddies. Shout out to TJ. He lived down Sheffield. Down Sheffield, just like not even a full block away from Murphy's bleachers. And I just I went to his place like the day before. And I remember we couldn't get into the bars like on Clark Street because they were charging an ass load just to get in. They were charging we're talking $100 just to get in. Like at the door, just to get in, man.
Because I know my brother was at Murphy's. I don't know which game it was. It might have been for Game 7. Maybe let me text him, see what he paid for cover.
But so we went over to Boys Town and we just like a few.
Oh, blocks. Just by chance.
Yeah, and so yeah, we watched the game over there, like half of it. And Game 4 was not fun. It was actually depressing. That was when the Cubs went down 3-1. I remember when the game ended, I was just dead inside. I thought it was over. I thought we were going to come all this way for the Cubs to lose, and then of course the Indians blew a 3-1 series lead. The sixth team in MLB history to ever do that. Never forget. So yeah, man, it was that was my one experience though. At least there for the World Series. Wish it would have been for Game 5 instead, but it was still just an incredible atmosphere. I remember just walking outside Wrigley 5 or 6 hours before that. You could, even with no one, I mean, people were in the area, people got into Wrigleyville early and were hanging out at the bars and stuff like that, but not as many as the people who went to the actual game, mm-hmm. right? But you could just feel the energy, even 6-7 hours beforehand. And I just remember taking it all in and just cherishing the moment because at the time you're just kind of we don't know if we'll ever get this again. You know mm-hmm. what I mean? So yeah, I mean, now I'm feeling 5 years later after saying that, it's we should really cherish this because we really don't know if we'll ever see it again. But it's hard for me to explain what it was like just hanging out in the neighborhood for the second World Series game at Wrigley Field, for only the second one since 1945, it was something that you can't really put into words. It was something you had to be there and just kind of soak in what it was really like to just witness something that even in the Astros and Braves series, man, the neighbor, the city, those cities going through that right now, they sure as hell aren't anything like what Wrigleyville was in 2016 right now. Sure as hell not. I promise you. I absolutely promise you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, man. So it's just again, it's something special, something we'll be telling our kids about one day. And, I make the joke all the time, that I'm going to do that. But it's I mean, I really am. Like, I feel like that's
100%.
the bedtime stories, right?
Mhm.
Like, put the kid in bed and you start telling, well, let me tell you about the time Dexter Fowler hit a homer in the biggest game in the greatest baseball game I ever watched. You know what I mean?
And that's
Like,
and that's the thing. When it comes down to it, yes, we're two diehard Cubs fans, but that might be the greatest baseball game of all time. Like, it has to be.
it's up there, man. It's up there. I mean, if I take my bias hat off, I mean, one of the first series that I ever that really made me fall in love with baseball. I mean, Sammy Sosa really stole my heart in terms of loving the Cubs, but really loving the game of baseball was watching the 2001 World Series between the Diamondbacks and the Yankees. This is like shortly after 9/11, and that series went 7 games. Mariano Rivera on the mound, and the Sandman, man, the greatest closer of all time, and Luis Gonzalez gets a game-winning hit in Game 7 to walk it off at home. Just, not only that game, but not only that moment, but that entire game, it was back and forth, just like what Game 7 of 2016 was. And I also hate to say, I think it's Game 6.
Exactly. Cardinals Rangers. That would be my pick. I remember one of my best friend is a diehard Cardinals fan, and I remember being like, just watch, like hate watching that series, and you're just like,
Same.
like here it is, and then they just kept going back and forth, and you're like, all right,
the amount of times the Rangers were down to just needing one out to win the World Series, and then not winning the World Series was something. I mean, it was like people on Cubs Twitter talk about the Cardinals devil magic, man. That's literally what it was. It felt like it was so annoying because that Cardinals team was not that good that year, and they got hot in September like they always do, and
was that the
snuck into the playoffs.
No, Alan Craig year would have been the year they lost to the Red Sox, I think.
Yeah, the 2011 was like the David Freese year, man.
Right,
He was
no,
the
definitely
World Series MVP, and it was just super hot the entire postseason.
So it must have been that would have been 2013 when they lost to the Red Sox. And Alan Craig, that in that entire season, hit like 380 with runners in scoring position for the entire season.
Right,
Alan Craig, give me a fucking break.
Right. He had one really good year and then just really sucked after he left. That's what the Cardinals do, right?
What was their shortstop? Pete Cosma.
Pete Cosma.
The dude forgot how to catch a ball in the World Series.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. God. I don't want to think about former Cardinals that annoyed my shit because this episode is not for that. So what Cubs haven't we mentioned? That made an impact in Game 7. I mean, Kyle Henderstar, we mentioned him. We mentioned Fowler.
There's David Ross hit the homer.
David Ross, yeah, we didn't mention David Ross hitting the homer in his very last game.
Right. Other than that, he had that ball that bounced off his face and kind of
almost got a concussion. Yeah, yeah. We kind of touched on the switching Hendricks out for Lester there and how it was too early. I mean, when you look back at the game now, you got to give a lot of credit to John Lester for, despite the bad start, he got out of the inning with the Cubs still leading, I believe, and then he was solid for 2 more innings after that, and that kind of just sums up what John Lester was for the Cubs.
Pretty sure they tied it because he came into a 2-run game and they scored 2 runs on that ball that hit off of.
Yeah. Maybe the Cubs.
Kipnis was one that came around second.
Yeah, and then the Cubs ended up scoring 1 or 2 more runs or whatever, right? And then there
was the Javi homer, which may have happened before. I don't know. I said, I was drunk. We'll just say it.
All I know is the Cubs finished with 8 runs. One of them was from Fowler, Ben Zobrist, RBI, and Montero. Javi hit a homer, and David Ross hit a homer. And then a lot of it is kind of a blur because there's just so much happening.
Contreras had a double off of Kluber because he started. Yeah, it's crazy that the Cubs kept 3 catchers on the roster.
I mean, when I talk about how the Cubs need another backup catcher, I think about 2016, man, because Yeah, David Ross, who was the main guy for John Lester. Contreras was a young stud coming up. You weren't sure if you could trust him to catch every day, but Montero was a really nice leader. You liked Contreras for defense, and you definitely had the bat. And then you liked Montero mainly just for, like
Montero had a good season, man.
He did not have a good season in
2016.
Really?
Man. No, I just always
go look at the numbers. He was not very good.
He was he's just always. I don't know. I just felt like he was always
dependable. 2015, he was really good. 2016, he really struggled, and that's what led to them calling Contreras up in like July. And then
I was there for the debut. That was pretty cool.
That's a great moment. That's one of. I mean, if Contreras goes on to be a Cub for life, that'll be on the highlight reel for sure.
That was on Father's Day.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Montero mainly came in for, I wouldn't even call it defense because people ran on him all the time. But I just feel like he came in more so for like just having some sort of veteran leadership in the lineup or out there and deep for defense.
Well, I think at that point
in the postseason he really didn't do much, but
he came in. I mean, at least in Game 7, he came in. I'm assuming to pinch hit for Ross or for somebody else.
Yeah,
and then
it's like as soon as John Lester came out, they took David Ross out, and then Contreras finished or Montero finished. Yeah, and which was scary because again he gave up a lot of steals.
Yeah,
and the Indians loved to run in that series. I remember that the very first steal in the series was Francisco Lindor, and the only reason I remember that was because of the Taco Bell commercial. Yes. It's pretty wild, but yeah, man. What else? Is there anything else? Did we miss anything? Is there anything else you'd like to say in terms of just your feelings and shit?
I mean, just more personally, just on my night that night. So, like I said, the bar I was at, they gave, I don't know who they gave the security camera footage to, but you can see. So I remember clear as day, I got hit with a drink.
Oh no.
Plastic cups.
Oh, okay.
But it was before the guy threw it, I don't know if he threw it before Brian threw the ball or if it was while it was, en route. But I got hit with the drink, and you could see it in the video. And then it just pandemonium. And then two of my friends jumped up on a table and then proceeded to fall off the table. And we're all hugging around. They started playing Go Cubs Go. Oh, just a great night. And then one of one of the older baseball players on the team, he had like an impromptu party after the bars closed. And we just started fucking pouring beers on each other, just pouring beers on each other. And the guy was just hold your hands up. Yeah. That jersey, man. I was wearing a Rizzo jersey. It's a bootleg.
Your experience is reminding me of my night when the Cubs clinched to go to the World Series, Game 6 in LCS. I was back at Eastern visiting, I think it was homecoming weekend or whatever, something like that. I had only been out of school for a year. And I was there. I was at my favorite bar. Shout out to Ike's. Watching Game 6, the Cubs clinch. I remember everyone saying "Go Cubs Go" in the bar, and there was a lot of beers consumed before and after, and no one poured any beer on me. I wouldn't have liked if anyone poured beer on me, but it is to each their own, man.
For anybody listening, go to my Twitter at Joe on Tap. Follow me if you don't. But my cover photo is from that night, and it's like the most like motley crew of guys I'm not even friends with. But we were just like all in the same place. It's like me and two of my friends and like 6 dudes who we all know, obviously, but we're not like friends with them by any means. And we're all just like hunched over, like, yeah. And it's just like the weirdest picture, but it's the greatest picture at the same time because of all that.
Yeah, I feel that, man.
And then one of my friends, so we're walking back from the party late night, and my friend, we were walking with his girlfriend too, and I don't know if she got mad at him for something he said, or we just could not find her. And so like I said, my snap memories, it's just me yelling out her name while I'm yelling, "Go Cubs, go!" and then I yell her name, "Go Cubs!" It's just so stupid.
Oh my gosh. You're all the listeners. I hope they really have a good idea of what you were like now back in college, man. You sound like you were a great fucking time. Sure knew how to crack them.
I'm telling you, I gotta show you all the videos. I mean, just from that whole entire after every win in the playoffs, after that we play "Go Cubs Go" and then we play Rizzo's walk-up song, "Intoxicated." We just fucking jam out. We're drunk for every single game. Who are we kidding?
Yeah, for sure, man. I don't know why, but on the night of Game 7, I think I had maybe 1 or 2 beers, man. That was it. Like, I wanted to be able to remember everything that happened. I just had a couple to like calm my nerves, but like, I wanted to be able to remember everything fully and just no matter what happened, I just wanted to remember everything that happened fully and just really take that in because I knew no matter what, it was going to be a day that I was never going to forget. And if I was super drunk, I probably would only remember it very well if the Cubs would have lost. And if the Cubs would have won, I probably wouldn't have remembered a lot of it. So, except for the fact that I probably would have just celebrated my ass off, you know? But yeah, that's kind of why I only had like a couple that night.
So you're right. I mean, I only remember the major stuff. Like basically, I don't remember all the stuff in the middle, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, at least you remember the important stuff.
Well, it was the best drunk like you could have, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I feel you. I feel you exactly, man. All right. Well, we're about 35 minutes in. Before we get out of here, is there anything else you want to add? Who you got tonight?
I don't know I know Max Fried's pitching, but who's pitching for the Astros? Let's see.
Yeah, I don't really know. Like I said, I don't want to root for the Astros, but okay, I would prefer them to win tonight.
It is Garcia. I want the Braves to win. Am I going to be upset if the Astros win? Not at all. But
I'm not even going to be upset if the Astros end up coming back from 3-1 to win the World Series. I mean, I'm not going to be ecstatic about it, but like, here's my thing. Here's my thing with the Astros. It's like, yes, they cheated and they should forever be trolled and shamed for it, whatever. But if they win this World Series, I think it kind of earns some respect back because clearly it really doesn't matter. If they do go on to come back and win this, I feel like it's kind of like I feel like they've earned, the right to say that no matter what, they were always good no matter
100%, what. 100%.
Like, as much as I don't want to be able to say that, I am also just kind of like tired of people shitting on the Astros. You understand what I mean by that from a sense? Mm-hmm. Like I don't go out of my way to just shit on the Astros every fucking day, this World Series, or even any other day. I mean, I'm sure there'll be something stupid that they do down the road just based off the ownership that they have and the players that they have and how they have attacked things whenever PR is not great. So I'm sure there will be another thing, but I think the whole cheating scandal thing will be forgotten. It's never going to be forgotten, but it's going to be less heightened, I feel, if they go on to win this World Series. Right. So, and even if the Braves do win, I feel like the Astros deserve some sort of credit as well, because like getting all the way there and as many times that they have, it can't be because you stole signs. It can't be.
I've been telling people is if they're still cheating and they're getting away with it with like a microscope over them, then then sure, get away with it. Who cares? But the only thing that bothered me at first was like they refused to talk about it, and then they took on the whole everybody hates us, like we don't care mentality, which was just stupid. And then they did catch a break, no fans in 2020. I mean, they caught a break.
Yeah.
But regardless, I mean, you look like George Springer. The guy's gone. The guy went to Toronto, had an amazing season, good player. Carlos Correa, still good player. Jose Altuve, still good player.
Yeah.
I think there's the last thing I will say is that when 20 years from now, when one of them writes a book and tells all, that'll be like the only book I ever read. So
Yeah. That would be interesting whenever, like you said, 20 years from now, whenever they decide to open up about this.
Yeah, just wonder who's going to be the one that does it.
Right. Yeah. It'll be like Alex Bregman or someone like that. That would be my guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, happy 5-year anniversary. It just sounded like me and you were in a relationship, but it's about the Cubs, not me and you. Everyone, I want to invite you all, if you don't, to head on over to ontapsportsnet.com to get all your Chicago sports needs. You can follow me on Twitter at Cody on Tap and Joe at Joe on Tap. You can follow the rest of Cubs on Tap's crew at Cubbies on Tap on Twitter and Instagram. And what else? You can follow the rest of all the great personalities here at On Tap. If you just head on over to On Tap Sportsnet on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, you'll see them all, and they'll let you know where they're from. So that was my best Ron Luce. Shout out to Ron. Miss you, man. Yeah, Joe, anything else?
Nope, that's all I got.
All right. Well, I would just like to say before we get out of here, fuck St. Louis. The last time the Cubs won the World Series was 5 years ago. It has been 10 years since the Cardinals won the World Series. That was a joke that I was always thrown at me about the 100+ years type thing, always thrown at me. So the Cubs won a World Series before the Cardinals in most recent times. Yes. So fuck them and go Cubs.
Go Cubs.